Film Club. Thank you very much for joining us in an episode of Film Club. I am one of your hosts, Andy Harrison. To my right, as always, it's the awkwardly swigging Andy Donaldson.
You all right?
Every single week in Film Club, we invite you along to watch a film with us.
No,
I dive into some of cinema's best.
That's true.
Before bringing him back here to talk it out.
He literally dives offset.
That'd be amazing. We should get a little diving board installed back here. We could have people diving off of it.
Just behind our easel.
Andy, what have we been watching this week?
Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
We have.
Which is about Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, Annetta. And it's a story.
That should be its subtitle.
Annetta. It's two outlaws who are once part of a gang and they do loads of train robberies consecutively and bank robberies and stuff like that. They actually they become quite infamous. They build quite a reputation that causes I think he's some big gaffer, important gaffer that hires a team with the expert tracker and an expert ruthless kind of policeman or lawman, and they come and track him down. They're pretty. There's no backing down from these guys.
They chase them all across the West.
It's fucking mint. So these guys say, well, the only other thing is do what we said before and go to Bolivia. So they all go to Bolivia, try and go out of there. They raid a few banks, and then they come to potentially meet their end when the Bolivians catch them and be like, yeah, fuck you, we're going to kill you.
Yep.
So it's just basically about, we did Ocean's 11 last week, and I said, can I continue the trend of heists? This is, whilst it's a Western, it's also a lot of heists in this film, and it's fucking great. I remember I saw it first, didn't I? And I saw the intro, and straight after that I was like, Andy, fucking hell, Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kids, me and Dad just saw it off chance. Fucking watch that film now, and you went, okay. And then you watched it and you went, yeah, it's fucking decent.
So on that subject, right, let's start with the intro.
It was such a way to start a film. Like, so you got this, you got this image where it's the Sundance Kid playing cards. We don't know he's a Sundance Kid yet. This guy with a mustache, blonde hair, playing cards in a heavily sepia tone. And he wins his games and it's just no dialogue from him. Just playing the cards, looking at them. All doing his like body language, all acting like throwing the cards at him. He's like, you won again. Accuses him of cheating. Then Butch comes into view, because I think Butch is in the game. He's got his back to the camera. And he goes around and you see this guy, this blonde guy. He's like, ask him to, like, he can stay for a bit and all this. And this guy's accusing him of cheating. He's getting more and more rattled like this. So Butch goes to the guy who don't know. He goes, come on, Sundance, let's go. And then the guy who's like accusing him of cheating goes,
I didn't know you were Sundance.
Yeah, and puts it down, asks him to stay. He's like, oh yeah, we can't stay because we've got to go and all this. And
it's so wonderfully done because it's all done like that whole opening sequence of the over the shoulder is on this really tight close-up, like which is a really unusual way to open a film, and then to hold it for so long.
Holds it and then it moves. It's still one take, it still moves like that to Butch, and it comes back a bit, doesn't it? Oh no, it switches to the guy who's shitting himself.
It's a totally odd and bizarre way to open a film, but moreover, it's a totally odd and bizarre way to open a film from 1969.
Yeah.
And I want to straight out of the gate, this is the thing that got me with this film, was
George Roy Hill, the director.
Sort of advanced techniques.
See, I was thinking this, and I was looking at the film there in 1969, I was thinking, that's weird. There's some really good, like, the moments which we'll probably go on about in a second, like the camera work in this film, the use of sepia tones, the use of, like, all those montages that really carry the way forward.
Yep.
It's like, how does that do that in 1969?
Exactly. I mean, there was people doing it, but to do it to this extent and to consistently experiment with things within the film, some of the stuff that I noticed was, yeah, you're right, the sepia tone stuff, so they're playing around with the idea of colour. You've got those use of close-ups, which weren't as... there's close-ups that we used back then, and there are even some extreme close-ups that we used back then, but the way they use them here is very, very unique and much more like contemporary cinema.
Yeah.
Like, we've headed in that direction as filmmaking has gone on. They weren't doing it much back then. There was crash zooms in the film.
Sorry.
What's falling down?
The Green Goblin fell off his glider.
I'm sure every week he probably falls down in the background. Crash zooms, close-ups, yeah. There was shallow depth of, like, really heavy use of shallow depth of field.
Is it crash zoom when it goes?
I think Edgar Wright when you zoom in on something.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The musical montages that go on. There's loads of use of, like, action on the long end of a lens, especially when they're riding the bikes around. Like, that's all done in this really zoomed in lens.
Yeah.
Freeze frames. And then later on, you get the photo compositing, where they're put into old photographs.
I thought that was fucking awesome.
And all of this stuff, right? yeah, people had done it before. People had like done it here and then everywhere. But to put all of this into one film and to just like, it doesn't feel like a 1969
No,
film.
it does not at all. It feels like much closer. It's like a Western that was made in maybe late 80s or something, early 90s.
100%. This feels like a late 80s Western.
It's fucking amazing. And it looks brilliant. It looks absolutely sensational. Probably my favourite shot of the film is coming towards the end of that photo montage, is when it lands. They just come into Bolivia, and it lands on a photo that says Bolivia Nationals, and then the train starts moving. You realise it's not a board, it's a train going forward. And then it kind of zooms in on them, just like, oh, we're in Bolivia.
Yeah.
And it's just such a good transition, just those photos in general, but that particular shot is such a good transition. Because it's almost like saying, yeah, the train's leaving, all those, like, that montage is leaving now. This is where we are in Bolivia.
Yeah. I mean, very sort of, it's a film which really tried to lead the way in filmmaking.
Yeah.
And the one thing I think it did successfully, I mean, people don't talk about that technical stuff too much, but the one thing I think it did successfully was blaze the trail for the idea of buddy comedies a little bit.
Buddy comedy, yeah, it's a very buddy comedy film.
This is not by any means, again, the first buddy comedy,
No.
but it's the one that popularized it. This is the film which everyone's trying to emulate when they do buddy comedies, because this is, one, immensely well cast, two, immensely well performed, but the chemistry that goes on between the two of them, plus, what's she called?
Etta,
well, I meant the actress, but
Catherine Ross.
The chemistry that goes on between all three of them is amazing. And the humor is really dry and kind of witty and just subtly popped in there every now and again.
Especially to end. I don't want to hear any more of your ideas.
Yeah.
And he's go, well, I thought, secretly I thought you'd want to know anyway, so let's do Australia.
Show me the money. Give me the money.
So
we're going to be here all night.
Yeah, you are. At first, when I first saw this film, I thought Etta was actually like kind of with them both sort of thing. And if you think about it, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, they're kind of the same person, but one's the brains and one's the brawl.
Yeah.
But they literally are the same person. Their relationship with Etta is quite similar as well.
Well, they vary.
Second time I realised
Butch Cassidy's much more outgoing, much more
but I mean,
energetic.
like, they're like, when it comes to decisions and stuff, they're always together.
Yeah, they've got a very sort of... they're on the same track.
They're on the same
track,
track,
have the same sort of plans.
But I watched it second time, I realised that Etta's more so Sundance's girlfriend. She's not really the girlfriend of, you argue, but he's got exceptional chemistry with it. It's almost like...
Oh, no, but yeah, that's what when they come back from the bike, they have that conversation about, she says, if we'd met first, do you think that we would have been involved?
Yeah,
She's very much the Sundance Kid's girlfriend, and it's Butch Cassidy's getting in there a little bit.
Yeah.
Hence why he's the one that sleeps with the prostitute at one point.
Yes. And I thought it was really good how they still had this great friendship together. Yes, Butch Cassidy and Sundance, their chemistry is amazing. So Butch Cassidy is done by Paul Newman, fantastic guy, and then Butch Cassidy is done by Robert Redford. What's that film that Robert Redford's in that I always forget?
Let me dive into your mind and tell you.
I actually don't know. Actually, I think I could know.
It's Alien 2.
Who?
Aliens, even more alien.
Is it?
No,
really?
It's not.
All right.
I don't know what you're thinking.
Right. I don't know what Robert Redford's in, but I see him and I see his face. I recognise him. Now, I think the acting there is just superb. One thing about Paul Newman, which is really good, is he's actually a really good guy in real life.
All right,
so he has his charity. Let me just double check the charity. Because it's something I was going to do last year and I never got around to doing, so it will be something I actually get.
Paul Newman's Become a New Man, man's charity.
He passed away, I think.
Well, Paul Newman?
Yeah, he passed away. 2008. So anyway, he's got this charity.
2008?
Yeah, 2008.
Wow.
Political. What he does is he has a charity and he's got one over here called Over the Wall. And the whole idea of his charity is to set up camps for kids with like disabilities or serious illnesses and stuff like that. And it's fantastic. Like, I know one of the girls who works for Over the Wall over here, and she was just saying like how amazing this is. I was in touch with him. I had like an interview and stuff, and I just never got around to it. I couldn't get the time off work. But it'd definitely be something I'd be doing. I can't remember what it's called in America. In the wall, it's So it's Hole in the Wall gang camp. So obviously the gang in this film, Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, the gang was called Hole in the Wall. Yeah, and that's what these named the charity.
He's 83 when he died.
Sorry,
he was 83 when he died. I was just curious how old he was. Yeah, interesting little tidbit that the Hole in the Wall gang wasn't actually what they were called. The real Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid. A lot of the information surrounding them isn't very reliable, apparently. You can't quite verify a lot of it, but they weren't called the Hole in the Wall Gang. They were called the Wild Bunch.
The Wild Bunch, yeah, that's
it just so happened that when this film was coming out, Sam Peckinpah was making The Wild Bunch, so which had was obviously Western as well. So they were like, let's not get involved in that. Let's just rename them.
That's fair play. That's fair play. But it's nice to know that Paul Newman did that. It's a terrific guy there. Yeah, I genuinely think this is a fantastic film. I absolutely love it. And in terms of Westerns, so obviously we're going to the Western thing now.
Yeah.
Looking back, I dare say this is my favourite Western.
You're insane.
Yeah, but I haven't seen many.
This is...
I wouldn't call it like majorly a Western alone, because you said last week, and he's getting us to watch a Western. I was like, oh yeah, it kind of is a Western. So
to be fair, I'm only giving you a hard time. I think this is a lot of people's favourite Western.
Okay.
This is a film which I've heard, I can't remember where, so I do apologise if I'm ripping this from somebody, but I've heard this referred to as your grandma's favourite film a lot. So
it's very Sunday.
There's a certain age group of people which love this film. This was their film.
I think it's great.
And it's got loads going for it. The only thing it lacks for me is depth. I think it's a totally fun film. And is
it because there's no motivation behind the heists? There's no end game for them. There's no reason they're in there. It's just
a little bit.
There's kind
of that pacing problem of they run away. They pull off the two train jobs. Then they're on the run for the rest of the film, and then the bank heist comes into play.
Yeah,
and there isn't much motivation outside of they just kind of want to.
That makes sense.
Live, and like it takes a little bit too long for things to happen. Minor complaints. Really, really minor complaints. Totally fun film. Similarly, although I really appreciate them experimenting with some of those like techniques about doing freeze frames and playing around with sepia tone and using sort of long end of lenses and shadow of the field and close-ups and all that stuff. I appreciate seeing that stuff. I don't think it's implemented as well as it is in some other places. Like I don't think, for example, they use the close-up the way that like Sergio Leone uses the close-up.
I forget how much of you're a big fan of Leone.
Exquisite.
Yeah,
I mean, like
I do need to get around to it.
To be like, okay, so like this came out the same sort of time as Leone was making his westerns.
Yeah.
So it's not like they were able to learn from him; they were his contemporaries. So it's difficult, I think, sitting in 2018, looking back at these films and judging them. Don't you dare touch my microphone! And judging them with hindsight, because at the time they were experimenting just like Leone was experimenting.
Yeah,
like
true.
The whole spaghetti western thing was born out of him experimenting. So like you can't kind of hold that against them.
So what kind of films do we have nowadays where they're doing that and they're using like maybe more avant-garde techniques in filming, much like this is doing?
I mean, there's loads of people doing it, but not inside Hollywood. Like the big budget tentpole Hollywood films now aren't experimenting very much.
Is that just because they're playing safety and stuff like that?
A lot of the time. I mean, maybe arguably in 20, 30 years when we look back, we'll actually look at this period as the experimentation of CG in cinema.
Yeah,
as much as I have a personal vendetta against CG.
Unless it's used well.
Unless it's used well, and even then I'd still rather not see it. I think now is the time people are finding out the boundaries of CG and pushing it in different ways and seeing how they can implement it. There's way more interesting techniques being experimented on, but a lot of those things are being done outside of Hollywood and even outside of America and the UK.
Really?
Yeah. Some good stuff coming out of France. But, France defined avant-garde, one with the word and two French New Wave cinema. But hey-o. Right.
It's a good point. It's a very good point.
One thing I want to touch on, music in this film.
Yes.
Because raindrops keep falling on my head.
Yeah, what a great way to do that on the bicycles part. I think it's got a really good way of the music of carrying the film forward. Another example, we're going about the monologue montage scene.
Yep.
With when they go to New York and stuff like that. It's a really good way of carrying the film forward, and yet it not feeling out of place because there's parts where you don't have any dialogue, you don't have any sound effects. It's literally just music and music alone.
Yep.
And it's really, really well done. Like you said, the bicycle scene. Raindrops.
Raindrops keep falling on my head. There's 3 musical interludes, I believe, and then outside of that, music isn't used throughout the rest of the film.
Yeah.
And this is because the director just didn't like the idea that whenever you've got music, it starts to drown out the dialogue.
Yes, and I think the dialogue in the film, obviously, it doesn't really utilise silence as such, but it utilises the. Let's say imagine if I have the sound space there, yeah. So you remove music. You remove the music, and you just got the space. It's just full of you got your ambience, you got your sound effects, and you got your dialogue. Paul Newman pretty much owns the dialogue. There's some really great parts where he's going about. He's almost like asking rhetorical questions, or he's speaking, he's answering his own questions, or he's going like, "How can they not? And look, they're doing that. We can't do that. How are they doing that?" Sort of thing. And it's stuff like that. And you
Love
like,
that.
yeah, exactly. In Sundance, it's just like he looks, and he says something, he goes, "Oh, you're quite talkative today." So Paul Newman absolutely owns the dialogue field. And then you have these amazing parts of ambience and sound effects. Great moment is when he jumps into the water. Not many films would probably do this. He goes into the water and he's like, "Oh shit, they're still on our tail." So Paul Newman gets up and he plods over, but you can hear that squelch, 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 or when he's absolutely just, his shoes are absolutely soaked. And there's a lot of tension to that kind of the ambience in this film, and the feel of the wilderness and the desert. And I think they've done well. So yeah, to exclude music.
Just side note that scene where they jump into the river.
Yeah.
Like obviously now has become
shit.
become iconic. It's this immensely impressive stunt.
Do you know what it reminds me of?
Go on.
And it's been a long time since I should say this film reminds me of Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, Thelma and Louise.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Obviously, Thelma and Louise was well after this.
Yes, very much.
But
so.
yeah, I can see that.
Because I was kind of thinking, we should maybe watch that.
We have something else planned up.
We do.
Before we move on to that, though, one last little shout out to, can't remember the guy's name, the guard on the train.
Oh God, what's his name? I'll get it up here.
Is it Woodstock?
Woodstock, I think. Yeah,
Is it Woodstock. Like, just I love those scenes.
Woodcock.
I love.
George Firth.
Absolutely love those scenes so much. He's just so funny.
Yeah, he's just like, no.
And that moment where like they rob the train again, he's like, Woodcock. So great. Anyway, that is Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid. You can let us know in the comments below what you thought of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, or Sundance Kid. You can hit us up on Twitter, as always, and we're back once again next week with another film where we're very, very excited to be doing
Sicario. I can't fucking wait. Andy hasn't seen it.
Denis Villeneuve. What a director, and I cannot wait to finally see this.
I remember it was, do you remember Marley? She was with us from The Good Dinosaur, episode 8. She actually said, "Oh, Andy, if you ever want to watch a film that will just keep you on edge, watch Sicario." Honestly, mate, probably one of the best films I've seen in the last 5 years.
I cannot wait. So get watching. Meet us back here for another episode of Film Club. We'll see you guys next week.